going out and doing the process in the way that it was meant to be carried out. I just think, again, we talked about this a lot on the show. The depravity is kind of the point. They're trying to send a message to all undocumented people that when they catch you, they're going to put you basically in a gulag, and they want people to quote unquote self-deport. And this is despite the fact that most of the people that they're picking up are doing the process legally. Now, conservatives, what they would say is that Biden, he didn't have the authority. He did these executive orders that sort of made it way less restrictive in terms of the standards for people who are seeking asylum, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, he was the president, the newly elected president at the time, and these folks are actually following
this match has the potential to completely change the
WWE
WWE
under the
landscape.
pretense under which they came. And conservatives would say that was illegitimate, and therefore we get to treat these people like pieces of garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I had a Republican voter
A man who always considers
why
himself
can't they just
main
come
event
over here
material,
legally?
an
A lot of the
uncrowned
people who
champion.
are
He
going
wants to
through
show
legal
exactly
avenues,
why here
they're being
tonight.
picked up at courthouses whenever they come for, they show up for their court appearances, because that is part of the legal process. And then they're being thrown into facilities like this one, and their lawyers can't even get to them. So, we're going to get to a lot more of that. The depravity really was on display, though, with that clip that we just saw from Benny Johnson, and he was, giddy about how horrible it was, and how high the walls were, and how isolated it was, and how, there's so many mosquitoes there. Mosquitoes are not just, they don't just make you itchy, they carry so many diseases, it's really unsafe for people to be there. So, anyway, of course, they're going to use this as a way to, get some good coverage on social media and make money off of it, because they wouldn't be the MAGA people that we have come to know if they weren't. So the news surrounding Alligator Alcatraz only gets worse, because the GOP is treating the literal torture of these migrants as a tourist attraction. You can see there in the video, it's unbelievable. Republicans have also sought to capitalize on the center by selling Alligator Alcatraz merchandise in 2 different online stores. One of those stores is run by the Republican Party of Florida, and the other one is run by the Florida AG, Lutz Meyer. It's unbelievable to look.
Which is why it is
potentially torturous conditions for undocumented immigrants are being monetized. It's as depraved as you can imagine. The Republican Party of Florida pushed out this campaign email last week saying in part, quote, the feds have created an Alligator Alcatraz for gator urban python patrol for illegal immigrants so they could game the system. Surrounded by miles of swamp and bloodthirsty wildlife, this ain't no vacation spot. It's a one-way ticket to regret for criminals who wish they'd self-deported. And then there's the option to snag your swag because, yes, of course, they're selling merch. They're always selling merch. For just $15, you can have your very own Alligator Alcatraz air koozie. There's nothing funny about this. This is sadistic glorification of human pain and suffering.
There's nothing classier that I can think of than an Alligator Alcatraz air koozie. So Lutz Meyer's shop has an even larger variety of items, including buttons and, of course, bumper stickers. We know that they love their bumper stickers. But the corruption here is coming out in the open. The inhumanity is being celebrated. This place is doing right now. Due process has already been suspended in this country. They're denying people the right to religion. Where are the constitutionalists now? I never thought I'd say this before. Activists. That's the thing, is I'm not a Christian, I'm not religious, but people have a right to their Bibles, they have a right to practice their own religion, and just outright denying it, if that is actually what happened, that is unconstitutional. So we all knew something like this was inevitable once Trump got into office, but maybe there's some hope in the fact that this place seems like it's being so poorly run that they're either unwilling to spend the money on keeping it open, or maybe it'll just become so much of a cesspool that it can't stay open. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're running with any kind of standards right now, or trying to meet any kind of safety criteria. And maybe that there's a silver lining there. I mean, they're not off to a great start, and you know that they're not going to funnel any of the merch revenue from what they're selling back into the facility. The people who are selling it are just going to keep that money.
Well, of course not. I mean, the corruption is the key word, and I'm happy you used that there. But before we get to the corruption part of this whole debacle, I think, folks, the viewers need to understand that the anti-immigration portion of the right wing, and more specifically the MAGA coalition, is one of the most animating elements of Donald Trump's rise in the Republican Party, right? Like, there's this anti-elite sort of establishment, whether that be the media, whether that be the government, whether that be college universities, all of these institutions that we've come to love and trust. There's a backlash towards the institutions. There's a backlash against neoliberalism, which is just like marketize the hell out of everything, outsource every single American's freaking job overseas for the cheapest labor possible. And then, a rejection of that neoliberalism. And then what ties it together is this anti-immigrant sentiment, which I know, yes, there's a lot of xenophobia, racism tied into it, but a lot of it is an economic sort of outlook, that they're bringing all of these, who they would call illegal people in so that they can work for cheap. Our economy is based on cheap labor. It's why, they fight us tooth and nail over a federal increase of the minimum wage, which is why, even Biden, a freaking union bus with the railroad workers every now and again, excuse me. Our economy is based off of this idea that we need an unlimited reserve of cheap old labor, right? And so the movement is based on that. And, the anti-immigration part, yes, I think Trump is playing with fire here. The Republicans, the right wing, they play with fire. Yes, to the base. To the people who love Trump the most, they cannot get enough of this. They feel like the immigration system has been unfair. They feel like people have just been lying. They feel like resources are being allocated to new people who they themselves are being told there's no resources for anything pertaining to their lives. Cool, you're making rules only at the mouth of right wingers. Yeah, they're getting really excited right now. However, independents, obviously, Democrats and liberals and leftists and all that other stuff, they're not flowing with this. You can go look at Joe Rogan. You can go look at Tim Dillon. These people are not down with this, rounding up workers at Home Depot. It's insane. And then, for the corruption piece, guys, I've been yapping up right now. I think for the corruption piece, they basically signed a blank check for ICE and the immigration. This is the biggest enforcement agency in America, probably in the world right now. This anti-immigration regime. They're not going to hire a bunch and train a bunch of people into how to do this. They're going to outsource this to private companies. So they're just going to rake in this cash, and I promise you, they are not going to deport 10 million people for 4 years. I promise you, it's just going to be a blank check to these private companies.
Yeah. What did you say? The economy is built on cheap labor. You're absolutely right. And right now, they are struggling to reconcile these two things. On one hand, they need the cheap labor to appease these business bosses. And honestly, in the capitalist system that we have here in this country, that's all that matters is cheap labor. They have to maximize the dollar. They have to maximize profits. That is the whole point of our entire economy. So whenever the dollar is prioritized, that means that people are not prioritized. And that's why the idea of running this country as a business never made a whole lot of sense to me as, a leftist economy. If you run it, that's the thing.
The results of this battle plain to see on their face. At least they can say they won the match.
Definitely a cause for celebration. What an impressive victory.
Balance that can be struck somewhere.